Hello, this is Robert Ferguson coming to you live out of the 805. Hey, I am your nutritionist and I am sharing because I care. I am recording this Fat Loss Friday on a Saturday, October 1st, and I purposely waited. It was really tough to do because for the last 30 days, for the month of September, I put myself on a pretty tight 30-day challenge, which I just completed. I am so thankful that I did it. And now I'm transitioning to the next 30 days. So I'm going to share that with you. I'm also going to share with you today something that happened on Wednesday from the Biden administration. This is not a political thing. This is about the FDA announcing that there's a new definition of what they refer to as healthy food. And I'm going to share information with you about that. And I want to give well, before I even dive into all of that, if you have not been to our YouTube channel, if you don't want to miss any sharings that I make available, just go to the YouTube channel, click on the YouTube channel, right? It's youtube.com/Diet Free Life, or look up me. You'll come to the YouTube channel, Diet Free Life, and just like, subscribe, hit that bell so that anytime I upload a new video or share new information, you will at least be notified. And if you want to listen to it, hey, then listen to it. I appreciate you guys sharing and helping to get the word out about how people can live a diet-free life, how they can improve their health and lose weight without avoiding carbs, and how they can be informed. And then you're less likely to fall prey to those who are misinformed, because there's a lot of that going on right now, a lot of it. Okay, let's get to this. And I won't keep you long, I promise. But before I share with you some of this important information about how the government is now going to be looking at what foods are healthy or not, as well as my update on my 30-day challenge and how it can help you in moving forward with your goals, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my clients, Jane. Jane hit her 70-pound weight loss benchmark yesterday or the day before. And Jane, when she jumped on this voyage and gave me the opportunity to coach her, she was at the time 73 years of age, full-blown type 2 diabetic. There's some other things that were going on. And she was at an even 200 pounds. And most of the time when you're 200 plus pounds and you're in your late 60s, 70s, 80s, most people around you will say, don't even worry about it. You lived your life. Don't even worry about it. And it's almost like they hate on you. They want to talk you out of doing better for yourself. Well, Jane didn't listen to those people, and we started working together, and she is a joy to work with. I look forward to every call that we have. She is an amazing human being, and she inspires me in a big way. And she did something that is available to many people, especially those in the Medicare Advantage world. It ain't over, you guys. You can still make things better. So kudos to Jane, who is no longer a type 2 diabetic. She's off all these medications. She's 130 pounds. And not long ago, she was 200 pounds. That's 70 pounds. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of clients I could be giving a shout out to, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Jane, because now at 74, she is rocking and rolling. So kudos. Okay. So as far as my challenge, let me just say this. It was really, really, really tough. It was challenging. I had a really tough time with it, but I saw it through and it worked out. And so I am forever thankful for that. The challenge that I did put myself on is for 30 days, I didn't want to drink any alcohol. And for many of you, that's easy, but I like a glass of wine here and there, and I like to have a cocktail here and there. But I took that totally out for the month of December or September, did it. The other thing I did is every morning I woke up, I gave praise to God. I was thankful. And then I sent out blessings to people who were in need or anyone who was looking for prayers. It was all about gratitude. So I did that every day before I turned on my phone, before I turned on my computer, before I looked at an email, a text message. I gave all the honor and the glory and the thankfulness to God. And I wanted to bless as many people as I possibly could. So I did that every day for 30 days, and I will continue to do that. The other thing is if you're familiar with the Diet Free Life methodology, we eat 3 meals a day. You're encouraged to eat 3 meals a day. And meals either have what we call a fast carb in it or they don't, right? So if it doesn't have a fast carb, then it's protein, what we refer to as protein, and all slow carbs. So 3 meals a day for 30 days, that's 90 meals. So I had 90 meals that were all protein and slow carbs. I did not have one fast carb portion in any of my fat burning meals. And I just wanted to challenge myself. And I had moments where it was really challenging. It was frustrating. I felt deprived at times. Um, yeah, it was tough. I went to bed early on many nights, but I did it and it feels great. And I would say that the majority of my meals, even moving forward, will be protein and slow carbs because it feels good to me. It works well for me. And then I'll have my fast carbs when I feel like I want to have a fast carb. And I had so many challenges, um, mental challenges, emotional challenges, physical challenges during the 30-day period. But yet I stayed true and I did it. And if I can do it, I'm sharing this because you can do it. And the fourth thing I did is I exercised a minimum of 30 minutes every day. I kind of overdid it. So right now, today I'm not exercising. I am going to Six Flags today. I'll be doing a lot of walking, but I'm feeling I overworked, but it was a challenge. And I was able to follow through and I was able to like do it and I did it. And so I'm thankful. So set some goals for yourself, but here's where the power is, because when you're in the middle of it, right, and as you're transitioning, going through it, there's moments where you feel great, where you feel like a superhero, but then there's moments where you just start craving everything. You just want to eat the world. It's like you just feel pissed off a lot of, I mean, you really do. But that's when you must dig deep. That's when the glory is in the story of not falling prey and giving up. I don't care what the situation is, you see it through and you will be rewarded for that. Okay. So good luck. If you need help with that, if you want to get a coach, hey, I'm available right now. I have openings for coaching. So reach out to us. And I'm telling you, when you have someone with you in your corner, all things are possible. I mean, we know that for those of you who are believers, right? The Bible is very clear. God is always in your corner. He will never leave you. You will never be left alone, even when it feels like you're walking by yourself. Uh, for those of you who believe, He's always there with you. So there you go. So now let me get to it so we can get out of here. The government just came out and they are going to announce, or they're making an announcement that they're changing the labels. And instead of the nutrition facts label being on the back of most of the products that you buy, it's going to be front and center. You're going to see it. And then they're going to come out with a claim on certain foods as being healthy. Now, I find this very interesting because I've been on many TV shows, I've been in many debates, and I always ask, who's going to define what's healthy or not? And no one really has an answer. Well, the Biden administration is now saying, hey, we're going to make it easy on people. And so they're focusing on three things when it comes to these products. They're looking at added sugar, that's fine. I'm okay with that. So added sugar will be a big focus. And if you don't have as much added sugar as their guidelines dictate, then it can be considered a healthy food. So they'll get the healthy stamp. So they're looking at added sugar. Then they're looking at the amount of sodium in a serving. Again, I don't have a problem with that. Not at all. They can mention sodium. They've been talking about sodium, even though there's no real clear studies that demonstrates the negatives of adding salt or sodium amounts. It's all an estimate, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I think salt is beneficial for everybody, but they're going to put that there. Here's where I have a major, major, major problem with how they're defining what foods are healthy or not. And that's when they focus in on saturated fat. Saturated fat. So they're looking to see the saturated fat to be reduced even more than it is now. Now, to understand saturated fat, there's different types of fats that we consume, right? You have saturated fat, which is a fat that at room temperature, like butter, will just be a solid. Because it's primarily saturated fat, a very stable fat. Lard is a stable saturated fat. When you look at things like ghee, that's high in saturated fat. When you look at coconut oil, that's why it's at room temperature, it's usually a solid. Um, and that's primarily saturated fat. And if it's not saturated, it's unsaturated. And you will hear of two different groups of unsaturated fats. You have mono unsaturated, which is, you could easily classify olive oil for that. Extra virgin olive oil, I'm going to specify. And then you have poly unsaturated fat, which you have these essential amino acids, omega-3, essential fatty acids. You have omega-3 and omega-6. And that's where we start to run into somewhat of a problem, right? These are unsaturated, and you can get these through all. If you ate a steak, you're going to get saturated fat. You're going to get unsaturated fat. You're going to get omega-3. You're going to get omega-6. It's all in there naturally, right? But my concern and the growing problem, it's not even it's like we know it for a fact, is that when you're consuming a lot of these polyunsaturated fats, a lot of them are toxic to the body and are a prime candidate for why so many people are experiencing heart disease and are in all these levels of cancers in the lungs, skin cancers. I mean, you name it. Well, here's where it gets muddy. In the 50s, there was a hypothesis, the heart diet hypothesis, that continues to dictate how we look at food and what's healthy and what's not. In the 50s, there was this hypothesis that says if you eat cholesterol and if you eat saturated fat, that leads to coronary disease. And that's why we have this increase of people having heart attacks. And so that became the dogma. And then there was one study that demonstrated that if we kick back on eating saturated fats like butter, and they even threw eggs in there. That's when eggs were demonized. If you don't eat as much saturated fat, then you'll see your cholesterol levels get better. And the focus was on the LDLs. So you'll probably hear your doctors talk about that. And so when they did this study, the people who ate more of the polyunsaturated fats, their LDLs went down better compared to the people who ate regular saturated fat. And that was all they needed. But that wasn't enough evidence, because all of the data, and I've looked at literally probably close to 100 of the papers, all of the main randomized controlled trials, which are the most legit ways of running a trial, they all prove that people with the higher levels of cholesterol live longer. So there's way more benefit to having more cholesterol and consuming more saturated fat, which we also know that when you eat saturated fat, that's what causes your HDL to upgrade, to increase, which is good. So the ratios are better. So the problem that I have, and a lot of people in the low carb world and the carnivore world and the keto world, they appreciate when I say this because it fits their narrative. And that is, I don't see the problem with saturated fat. There's no evidence anywhere that supports that. And there's no evidence that supports that unsaturated, the polyunsaturated fats, the vegetable seed oils are good for us. There's none. And I reach enough people, I have enough doctors, friends that have challenged me on this, but they cannot show me one study. But I can show them multiple studies that say saturated fat is okay, as well as unsaturated, polyunsaturated fats are not good for you. So here it is, total hypocrisy. The FDA, again, they're coming out and they're saying, hey, we're going to tell you what foods are healthy. And part of that is based on how much saturated fat is in it. So if they bring the saturated fat down, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to increase the polyunsaturated fat because that is part of policy. This is sad, you guys. Very sad. And if you are not informed, if what I'm saying is foreign to you, that's a prime example of why you want to get a coach. That's a prime example of why you want to work with someone like me or one of our coaches, because you're not informed. And if you're not informed, then you're going to fall prey to whatever's out there. You'll fall for anything. If it sounds good, you're just going to just go with it. And it's kind of like if you go back and look at the trans fatty acid movement, right? In 1995, I was screaming saying, don't eat trans fats. In 2000, I was saying, don't eat trans fats. 2005, I was still saying it. 2010, I was still saying it. Finally, 2018, the government comes out and says trans fats are bad. We got to quit eating it. and they removed it from the food supply. But years before that, they were saying that this was the new alternative to saturated fat. Trans fats are better than eating butter. Trans fats are better than eating steak. Trans fats is what you want to cook with. Then the margarines became popular, and then you had of course, Crisco continued to grow, and trans fats were just in all of our foods, and they help with shelf life, so foods could sit on the shelf for longer periods of time. And then they had to admit it. Well, in the Washington Post, in this article where they highlight what the Biden administration is coming out with, the very last sentence, I'm going to read it to you, says this: they maintain a hard line about limiting your intake of salt and saturated fat. They is the FDA. But the FDA, state simply that cholesterol is not a nutrient of concern. Did you guys get what I just said? Now, they acknowledged this a few years ago, but going back to the original hypothesis that set all this up, they said that eating cholesterol and saturated fat is going to cause you to die earlier, heart attack, blah, blah, blah. Now they're admitting, 2022, oh, eat the eggs. Don't worry about the cholesterol. There's no limit. Cholesterol is not a problem. Not long ago, you said for us to avoid it at all costs. This is what's eventually, if we live long enough, you guys will see this with saturated fat. Saturated fat is not the problem. For the people who are not informed, they will be led by the FDA, by these guidelines, these recommendations. Not good. And for those of you, if you don't realize this, when they come out with policies like this about food, they're also coming out with policies, right, that are saying when this policy is in place, every nursing home, every penitentiary, every hospital, the cafeterias at schools, they have to follow these guidelines. So you may not realize it, but you're impacted by it. And if it's not you, then there's family, friends, associates, they're impacted by it. Let's get educated, you guys. We got this, but we must be informed. If we're not, we'll fall for anything. So hopefully there are some good nuggets in there for you. If you want help, if you are ready to be successful at improving your health, losing some weight, establishing a lifestyle where the weight doesn't come back and the health continues to just thrive, reach out to us. You can work with me directly. If it's not with me, I have a coach that will work well with you. Thank you again. Have a good one.